Have you ever stopped to think about the sheer power that rests in your words? It's a fascinating thing, really. This ability we have to string sounds together and create meaning, to build up or tear down, to soothe or to sting. But in our fast-paced world, how often do we actually pause and consider the impact of what we say before the words tumble out of our mouths? You see, there's an ancient wisdom tradition that has deeply explored this very question for centuries, offering profound insights into how we can use our speech not just effectively, but ethically, mindfully, and in a way that truly benefits ourselves and everyone around us. This wisdom comes from the heart of Buddhist teachings, and it's surprisingly relevant, perhaps even crucial, in today's world. Now, you might be thinking, Buddhism, what does that have to do with my everyday conversations? But here's the beautiful thing about these teachings. They're not just for monks in robes or people who identify as Buddhist. They're universal principles, practical guidelines for living a more harmonious, more fulfilling life. Think of them as a timeless guide to better communication, applicable to anyone, anywhere, regardless of their beliefs. And at the core of this guidance are what are known as 3 types of unwholesome speech. These aren't just don'ts for the sake of rules, but rather insights into types of communication that, when we engage in them, actually create significant suffering, both for ourselves and for others. So, let's dive in, shall we? Let's start with what might be the most damaging of these: words that divide. This is about using our speech to create separation, to stir up discord, to drive wedges between people. Think of gossip, for instance. It often involves sharing information, sometimes true, sometimes not, about someone else behind their back, usually in a way that's less than flattering. Or consider talking behind someone's back in general, whether it's spreading rumors or simply engaging in negative commentary about someone when they aren't present to defend themselves or contribute to the conversation. These kinds of speech acts, even if they seem like harmless venting or social bonding in the moment, can actually be incredibly damaging. Yet, it's easy to fall into the trap of using words that divide, isn't it? Perhaps fueled by jealousy or anger, or simply the desire to feel in the know. We might find ourselves participating in conversations that break down connections instead of building them up. But consider the conflict this creates. Words that divide don't just harm the person being spoken about. They contaminate the relationships between everyone involved. They breed suspicion, resentment, and mistrust. They create an atmosphere of unease where people are afraid to be open and honest for fear of becoming the next subject of gossip. Therefore, Buddhist teachings strongly advise us to refrain from using words that divide. Instead of using our words to break relationships, we are encouraged to use them to mend them, to build bridges, to foster understanding and harmony. This means being mindful of the impact our words have on the social fabric around us, choosing to speak in ways that unite rather than divide, that heal rather than wound. Moving on, the next most harmful type of unwholesome speech is lies. Now, on the surface, it seems simple enough, right? Don't lie. But think about the nuances for a moment. We live in a world where white lies are almost considered polite. Little fibs we tell to avoid awkwardness or to spare someone's feelings. You might compliment a dish you don't really like, or agree with an opinion you don't truly hold, all in the name of social grace. But even these seemingly harmless untruths, according to Buddhist teachings, can have a ripple effect. Why is that? Because at its heart lies erode trust. And trust, you see, is the very foundation of any healthy relationship. Whether it's with a partner, a friend, a family member, or even a colleague. However, consider the conflict that arises when trust is broken. Imagine finding out someone you depend on, someone you care about, hasn't been truthful with you. It can feel like the ground has shifted beneath your feet. Doubt creeps in, and suddenly, everything they've said and done comes under scrutiny. This erosion of trust doesn't just affect our relationships with others. It also impacts our relationship with ourselves. When we lie, even in small ways, we chip away at our own integrity. We start to question our own words, and others may start to question them too. Therefore, the Buddhist teaching is clear. Steer clear of lies. Cultivate truthfulness in your words, not just in the big pronouncements, but in the everyday exchanges. Strive for transparency and honesty, making it the cornerstone of your interactions. It's about building a life where your words are reliable, where people can trust what you say, and where you can trust yourself. The third type of unwholesome speech brings us to the realm of hurtful words. We've all experienced this, haven't we? Being on the receiving end of words that are sharp, critical, and intentionally hurtful. Think about being called names, being insulted, being spoken to in a rude or demeaning way. Remember how that feels? It stings, doesn't it? It can leave you feeling small, dejected, and emotionally bruised. And yet, in moments of anger or frustration, it can be tempting to lash out, to use our words as weapons, to inflict that same pain on someone else. Hurtful words encompass more than just outright insults. It includes any form of communication that is intended to put someone down, to belittle them, to criticize them in a way that is destructive rather than constructive. It's about the tone, the intention, and the impact of our words. However, consider the internal conflict that arises when we engage in hurtful words. While it might offer a fleeting sense of release in the heat of the moment, it ultimately poisons our own hearts and minds. Anger, fueled by hurtful words, breeds more anger. Criticism, habitually expressed, hardens our hearts and makes us less compassionate. And consider the external conflict. Hurtful words create defensiveness, resentment, and a breakdown of communication. It shuts down dialogue and escalates tension. It damages relationships and creates emotional scars that can linger for a long time. Therefore, the Buddhist teaching is clear. Abstain from hurtful words. Instead, cultivate speech that is gentle, kind, and considerate. Even when we need to address difficult issues or offer feedback, we can do so with compassion and respect. Choosing words that build up rather than tear down, that heal rather than wound. It's about recognizing the power our words have to inflict pain and consciously choosing to use that power for good. Now, you might be wondering, why does all of this matter so much? Why are these three types of unwholesome speech considered so important in Buddhist teachings? Well, it comes down to the concept of karma. And karma, in this context, isn't some kind of cosmic reward and punishment system. It's more about cause and effect, the natural consequences of our actions, including our verbal actions. Buddha taught that the words we speak have the power to create either positive or negative karma. The intention behind our words, the energy we put into our communication. These things have real and lasting effects, both on ourselves and on the world around us. Don't underestimate the power of your words, Buddha urged. They are not just fleeting sounds that disappear into the air. They are seeds that we plant, and those seeds will inevitably sprout and bear fruit, shaping our experiences and our relationships. However, it's not just about avoiding negative consequences. It's also about cultivating positive ones. When we refrain from using words that divide, from lies and hurtful words, and instead cultivate unifying, truthful, and kind speech, we create positive karma. We build trust, harmony, and understanding. We create a more peaceful and compassionate world, starting with our own interactions. Think of your words as a knife, the Buddha said. A knife can be used to cut something useful, to prepare food, to create something beautiful. But the same knife can also be used to harm, to wound, to destroy. Our words are the same. They are powerful tools that can be used for good or for ill. The choice is ours. Let's choose to use our words wisely, consciously, and compassionately, to create a better life for ourselves and for all those around us. So, as you go about your day, I invite you to reflect on these three types of unwholesome speech. Notice when you're tempted to use words that divide, to tell lies, or to speak hurtful words. Pause, take a breath, and remember the wisdom of these ancient teachings. Choose your words carefully. Speak with intention. Speak with kindness. Speak with truth. And watch as your relationships deepen, your inner peace grows, and your world becomes a little brighter, a little more harmonious, one mindful word at a time. If you found this exploration of Buddhist wisdom helpful, and if you're curious to learn more about mindful living and ancient wisdom for modern life, then please do subscribe to my channel for more videos like this one. May you all be well, happy, and live in peace, always.